I think my friend's texting me that Bitcoin crossed 60.
Yeah, when we started, it already was over 60.
Wow. Look at that. 60K Bitcoin today.
Yeah, that's crazy. It's pumping this Web Summit from Monday,
Yeah,
like from 50K to
I
60K.
know. It's because of us. We'll take credit for it.
Yeah. Hello guys, so we are now at Web Summit in Doha and here with you Anna Titova, co-founder of Coins Telegram, and our guest Matt Steffanina, who is one of the most famous choreographers in the world, and he's much into Web3, crypto, and NFTs now. So great
Yeah.
to have you here, Matt.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Great to see you.
So can you tell us about your background? How did you start with dancing with the choreography, and how it turned out that you know as well a crypto DJ, I would say.
Yeah, I would say I'm pretty deep at this point. I started as a dancer in 2007. I actually started a YouTube channel all the way back then, 17 years ago. And I was just putting my choreography out there. I was still learning, moved to LA, and basically went down this rabbit hole of dancing for artists. I danced for Jason Derulo, Taylor Swift, Lil Wayne, Snoop Dogg, tons of hip hop artists. I had an amazing career in dance, but the thing about dance is that it's very difficult to ever get ahead financially. It's a very tough industry, and the pay is low and the hours are long. And I discovered YouTube, and I was able to create a sort of side business on social media and get some brand deals. And I started to make a little bit more money, but I was still having trouble getting to that next step, and I was also having trouble imagining what am I going to do when I'm 40, when I'm 50, and I can't dance at this level anymore. So I sort of got into crypto early on. I was like 2017. Some friends of mine were in the space, and I was looking for a way to take the money that I had and multiply it. And I knew that from trading stocks, I could get 7, 10, maybe 15 or 20% on a good year, but that wasn't going to get me really out of the situation I was in on this sort of hamster wheel. So I dove into crypto. I did really well in 2017, like a lot of people with that early bull run, and then was not really educated on the space and cycles and how crypto works. So like a lot of people, I also lost pretty much everything that I made in 2018 when the market crashed.
Did you
But
get into too many ICOs?
it was, what it was is it was the first time that I'd ever, we knew like Bitcoin, we knew Ethereum, but that was like the first altcoin sort of, I hate to say shit coin run, but like there were so many coins that, and it just wasn't, I wasn't educated on it. It's so hard to differentiate. It's still tough to differentiate the projects that are legitimate and the ones that are sort of smoke and mirrors. And back then it was even way harder. So yeah, 2018 was rough, but the difference between me and a lot of people in my friend group was that I had conviction and I didn't sell. So I literally just stopped looking at my accounts 2018, 2019. And then 2020 comes along and I was like hearing some news, Bitcoin's back at this price, it's starting to come back up. And I was like, let me go check my Binance account and just see what's going on. And it was almost all the way back up to the highs of 2017. And so I went really hard in the 2020 market. Um, got really fortunate with some early plays into Metaverse tokens. I was really early in the sandbox into Decentraland. Also was really early into Cardano and a few others that pumped really hard in 2020, 2021, and got into the NFT space. Was early into Bored Apes and just honestly surrounded myself with a really good group of people, but still didn't quite time the exit great. Better than 2018. And so this now being my third cycle, my brother and I have a Web3 gaming company where we sort of connect the dots and bring together games and game developers with users and players and gaming influencers. And we host a lot of shows. So I've been really fortunate to be a lot more involved in the space this time and not so much just retail looking in, but figuring out how to get into some of these projects a little earlier and just understand the mechanics of what's going on behind the scenes in these projects.
What does bring you more income, investing into crypto or choreography?
That's interesting. In a bull market, for sure, crypto. In a bear market, dance. Yeah, dance is still a huge part of my life, but everything that I do with dance, I obviously take a portion of that money and put it into smart, sound investments because we never know what's going to happen with the market. I
So
have
you
some,
invest not only into crypto, or do you mean smart investments as Bitcoin or Ethereum?
well, good question. I mean, real estate primarily. So I have like every couple years I try to get another property and either put it on Airbnb or rent it out long term.
In the
Again,
US mostly,
in the
or?
U.S. Yeah, have properties in LA, in Miami, and in Virginia, where I was born. And for me, because dancing, like I said, it's nothing is guaranteed. Like I could sprain my ankle tomorrow, and I can't make videos, I can't teach, I can't dance anymore. So my mindset has always been to take some calculated risks on things like crypto and smaller projects and IDOs, and go really take calculated risks, but also keep putting things aside and set aside some funds into things like real estate that are going to have longevity and sort of a fallback just in case anything ever happens.
And what portion of your portfolio is in crypto now?
I would say the majority of the liquid cash that I have is in crypto. Probably about 70%
Mhm.
is in crypto. Um, I think there's just so many narratives stacking up right now between the ETF approval was amazing. Bitcoin halving coming up is obviously insane for us in the US. We have an election year,
Mhm.
which likely means that interest rates could be brought down, the economy could be flooded with more money. And so, I think of the three bull runs that I've been a part of, if we're considering this hopefully a bull run, uh, this is the one that has the most positive outlooking events stacked up for this to just be a massive run. Plus, like you were saying earlier, adoption is about to just explode between the ETF. And I think Web3 gaming is going to be a huge, huge, huge catalyst for people coming into Web3. Not even necessarily knowing that they're trading tokens. They might just be playing a game. Maybe they're earning tokens on the side, but they're still going to have a wallet. They're still going to be integrated into it. And it's going to make it a very seamless transition for them to start trading. So I see Web3 gaming as one of the biggest onboarding of new
Mhm.
users for the next couple of years.
And you mentioned that you discovered very early Sandbox, Decentraland. So how did you discover those companies?
Okay, so I was really curious. I used to do mocap for video games, and if you guys have ever played
What is mocap?
mocap, motion capture, so you wear the suit, and then whatever you do, like any movements, they go onto the characters.
Mhm.
So I did like my favorite game that I worked on was Uncharted series, and Uncharted is like a shooter. You're not a shooter. You're walking around. It's RPG. You're involved in the whole mechanics of the game is based on mocap. So
Mhm.
for all of the celebrations and taunts, just like Fortnite, you have dancers, you have taunts, you have all these different things that you can do. So they brought me in and basically said like, have fun, just go crazy. So I did like some dance moves, I did some flips, all kind of stuff, and then they put it into the game, right? So I was
Mhm.
always really curious and really passionate about how mocap works and just being a layer deeper into gaming. And so when I started to hear about metaverses and the ability to create your own characters and have your own world and people can come and experience whatever you create, it really fascinated me. So the first thing that I started doing was building a dance studio in Decentraland. And basically you can come in to Decentraland and go to our build and walk around and there's different dance tutorials playing on all the screens and you can
Did
come in.
anybody come to it?
Well, so we finished it right as the bull market was sort of ending and
Mhm.
things started to crash a bit. And so I decided that it was better to probably hold it until there were more users because, like we all, you know, unfortunately saw, it seems like the metaverse isn't quite ready for mass adoption yet. I think one day it'll be there. Uh, but the narrative behind it as an investor was amazing. And the ride up, as people started to get hyped about could this be the metaverse run and people actually start using this, that run up was insane, especially Sandbox and Decentraland just went absolutely crazy. I think the narrative this time, I'm currently not invested in any metaverse projects because I really believe that gaming and AI are the two narratives right now that people are identifying with the most. It's the most obvious way that people can see onboarding and just an increase in volume. For me, I always think about like my dad. If I explain to my dad a really complicated DeFi project, he's going to be like, I don't get it. But if I'm like, Dad, what's your favorite video game? And he's like, oh, Pac-Man. And I'm like, imagine if you play Pac-Man and you earn tokens and then you can use those tokens. And he's like, oh, okay, that makes sense to me. And
Mhm.
that's normally a really good test to see where the path of least resistance lies in onboarding.
And as well, do you play yourself any blockchain games? And what's your opinion on that the games?
I I'm really impressed, honestly, with this new generation. I think last time it was really early. Axie was really the only game that you could say made a huge impact and really went on a huge run. I think this time, there's games like Shrapnel is incredible. Off the Grid is coming up. It's been getting insane reviews. There's also been games like Treeverse getting ready to drop. Looks incredible. Like Parallel is doing unbelievable things. And then there's Heroes of Mavia, which just launched and is going absolutely crazy. I think they had over 1 million downloads in like the first week, or it's something insane. Like just the numbers that are coming out now of games that are actually playable and really doing volume when they drop. Mavi has actually been building for a long time, but now it's real. Before it was like we were talking about games, we were talking about the idea. Now you can actually go and play these games, or at least in all cases, pretty much at least see gameplay and trailers, but a lot of them are fully playable. And so I think that there's going to be this wave of Web3 games that is at a level that actually competes with the Web2 studios, and studios like Epic, they're going to have to look at um, do we keep fighting this, or is it time that we sort of jump on board? And I think one of them is bound to crack into the Web 2 world. Right now, Web 2 creators, gaming creators, are a little hesitant, a little resistant to Web 3 games because it got a bad rep in the last cycle, which is completely understandable. But all it takes is one. And as soon as the narrative is like, no, these Web 3 games are legit, that's set. The floodgates are going to open, and I just see them all going crazy.
And you as well invest into NFTs too?
Yeah, in the last cycle, I invested into NFTs a lot, both on the gaming side and had some fun with PFPs. I minted a bunch of apes and mutants, and was kind of early
How
into
is that
that.
doing now?
Luckily I sold all but one, so I just kept one board ape, one mutant. I kept a few pieces of land, a few things up for other side. Not doing the greatest. It hasn't been a good run for the apes the last few months. But for me, my focus is on gaming. That's really what I'm excited about, and that's where I see all the potential. Right now, I sort of believe that it's token season, so I'm primarily focused on tokens. Um, but I do think the NFTs are gonna come back around.
So in both NFTs, do you see potential for the current product Bull Run?
I'm not as educated as I would like to be on ordinals, but obviously they're having a huge run and a lot of hype. I think, you know, Bitcoin after the ETF approval is really gaining momentum. People are seeing it not just as a store of value, but they're actually, talking about Bitcoin NFTs. And I think it's great for the space. I think that the space has always followed Bitcoin. So if things are going well for Bitcoin, they tend to trickle down into everything else.
Yeah, sure.
I'm right now mostly just focused on tokens. I think that there are going to be some gaming NFTs that do really well, um, but it's a risky space because betting on games, it's really a toss up. You can have the best graphics, an amazing gameplay, and a great marketing plan, and for whatever reason, you just don't get the users. People just aren't hooked onto your game, and it can fall flat. So I stay away, even on the token side. I tend to stay away from investing in too many games, and I tend to invest more in the picks and shovels, if you will, the launch pads, the studios. Obviously there's
Maybe
the,
you
the
can
safer
share some
ones.
altcoin names where you
Yeah,
invest.
sure. I mean, the safer ones, the bigger plays, things like Immutable X are sort of leading the space. Superverse, which has a partnership with IMX and a few others, is an amazing project that's getting integrated into many games. Seedify is an amazing one. I do a lot of early investing on Seedify into gaming projects. So if you're looking to get in early, if you hold some of the Seedify token, you get the opportunity to invest in earlier rounds. Those are the main things that I would say for someone newer to gaming and just sort of getting their feet wet in it. Also, Avalanche is massive and doing amazing things. A little bit safer bets, and then obviously as you get further and further down the list into the low caps, that's
What
when
about
things
Dazu Chain,
start to get
Solana, Polygon, or anything?
yeah. I mean, I think my friend's texting me that Bitcoin crossed 60.
Yeah, when we started, it already was over 60.
Wow, look at that, 60K Bitcoin today.
Yeah, that's crazy. It's pumping this Web Summit from Monday,
Yeah,
like from 50K to
I
60K.
know it's because of us. We'll take credit for it.
Yeah. So what types of crypto trends do you see currently? What are your bets?
I'm definitely focusing into gaming and AI in particular. I think last cycle I made the mistake of trying to do a little bit of everything, and it's easy to get bogged down into so many projects between DeFi and Metaverse and gaming and all these different things. And I've made a promise to myself that if this run came back around, I would try to master a couple smaller sectors where I really saw the potential. So that's my main strategy is to focus there. I'll still have my safe plays. I'm always going to hold Bitcoin, ETH, Solana, AVAX, some of the bigger projects that I believe in. But when it comes to the shorter trades and the flips and everything like that, I'm keeping it to gaming and AI where I understand things a little bit better.
And you mentioned as well Deppin, so what's your
Yeah, yeah.
thoughts?
Deep in also, I think that what drives a lot of momentum in a bull market is narrative, like we talked about. And so in the last one, that's what you saw with Metaverse is none of the metaverses were really being used, and
Mm-hmm.
most of them weren't even finished. In a lot of cases, nobody was using them. But the narrative, the idea of wow, the metaverse, and you're going to own land. And I bought a sandbox plot, which is now not worth a lot of money. But I bought one because the narrative made sense to me. I was like, I'm going to own this plot and then I can have people over and we're all going to hang out in the backyard of my plot. It was like, the concept is great. It's still great, but it just didn't actually come to fruition. And so I think what we have here is a really strong narrative. We saw what happened with NVIDIA on the stock side. And a lot of times crypto tends to follow what's happening in the stock market and sort of mirror it. So NVIDIA goes crazy. Everyone is saying, oh, there's a need for computing power because of this AI narrative. So AI pumps, and then in turn, well, if AI is pumping and we have all these AI crypto companies being built and they're going to need computing power, well, now DePIN comes up because you're going to need something to power all of those companies. So I think there's a really strong narrative around that as well. But again, it's easy to get down the rabbit hole and be trying to focus on too many projects.
Yeah, that's true. So secret, stay focused on the narratives and do more research on the fields you're interested in.
Yeah, turn on your notifications, right? Because you give
Yeah,
all the alpha.
from Elon Musk as well, and he's always spam Dogecoin or
Yeah,
something.
I know Dogecoin's going crazy again too, guys. We're in a bull market.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing your story and thank you for sharing your investments with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for having me. It's been great.